evening. Tonight we come together in this quiet, dim light to warm each other, to care for each other, and in whatever way we find ourselves, we come to lean into the strength of who we are together, to seek comfort and courage, to seek a Christmas that is different, to seek something quiet and full of light, beautiful and calm. Whether we meet in this quiet place or you are joining us in the quiet of your own homes, tonight we honor the land that we find ourselves on, remembering the confluence of legacies and the rich heritage of the first peoples as we walk together toward reconciliation. And we come together to share the spectrum of emotions that we feel. Christmas has so many of them. Whatever our circumstances, we have a safe place in this honest circle that we create with one another. To, yes, remember the stories of birth amid poverty and glimpse of hope we can take for this season. But we come back again to the way we feel about Christmas, whether we're preoccupied with memories or struggling with changes life has brought our way, or filled with sadness and grief for the empty places at our tables. Whether we're weighted by worries or afraid for our world and fearful of the state of our planet. Whether we lament the terror of war and the struggles born of abuses of power and powerlessness. Whether our hearts are broken open by the losses of health or identity, relationship, or meaning. Whether we are seeking refuge from the frenzied demands of the season, regardless of why we've come, we are welcome here. We belong together tonight in our songs and stories, in our rituals, and in the communities we create with one another. May we find a spark of strength and a sliver of hope to help light our way through this Christmas season. We'll start by singing a Christmas tune that is ancient and old, whose words inspire us to find, even in the middle of the darkest season for us, something in the cold, something in the snow, something in the dark for us to hold. Let's sing our way into this space with each other.
Falls to wind we go. bet this is better. Yep. We remember the long story in which we take our place, the long story of light, born of chaos and mystery, and how we find ourselves within the universe in just the right place, where the shelter of the night and the sun that scatters the darkness without fail keep us company all the days of our lives. In the midst of that story, we light a candle for the hope that surprises us, for sparks of wisdom that light our way, and teach us again and again that the hope of the world rests not in might or cruelty, but in love that burns relentlessly even in a broken heart and a broken world. In our songs and stories, in the community we create with one another, may we look for the spark of possibility, of healing, of hope. In this spirit of light, growing light, we strengthen our intentions with the words on the screen we'll read together. Where there is emptiness, may we find fullness. Where there is coldness, may we find warmth. Where there is guilt, may we know forgiveness. Where there is grief, may there be comfort. Where there is goodness, may we discover joy. Where there are tears, may they be shared. Where there is fear, may there be courage. Where there is despair, may we access our own strength and in broken the whole places within us. May we know light in our darkness and find peace. Our wisdom reading this evening comes from Matthew 2, verses 1 to 12. Joseph was engaged to a woman named Mary when he discovered that she was expecting a child. As he considered his options, an angel came to Joseph in a dream and said, "Joseph, son of David, don't be afraid to take Mary to be your wife. She will give birth to a son, and his name will be Jesus, for he will deliver his people from their oppression." When Joseph awoke, he decided to proceed with his marriage plans. After they were married, Jesus was born during the time when Herod was king. Sometime later, Magi, who studied the stars, came from the east. They asked at the palaces, "Where is this baby born to be king? We have seen his star and have come to honor him." After consulting his advisors, King Herod sent them to Bethlehem. Along the way, they saw the star again, and it went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was staying. When they went into the house, they saw the child and his mother. They knelt down and offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. After being warned in a dream of the coming dangers, the Magi returned home another way. This is one of the first-century stories that gives us this Christmas tradition. May we find wisdom for our living.
A second wisdom reading tonight, a poem by Jan Richardson entitled "Where the Map Begins." This is not any map you know. Forget longitude. Forget latitude. Do not think of distances or of plotting the most direct route. Astrolabe, sextant, compass, these will not help you here. This is the map that begins with a star. This is the chart that starts with fire, with blazing, with an ancient light. A light that has outlasted generations, empires, cultures, wars. Look starward once, then look away and close your eyes. And see how the map begins to blossom behind your lids. How it constellates its lines stretching out from where you stand. You cannot see it all, cannot divine the way. It will turn and spiral. Cannot perceive how the road you walk will lead you finally inside through the labyrinth of your own heart and belly and lungs But step out, and you will know what the wise who traveled this path before you knew. The treasure in this map is buried not at journey's end, but at its beginning. In these words of a contemporary poet, may we find wisdom for our living. A star that has one of the best roles in the Christmas pageant. When we open ourselves to the lessons of the universe, we can recognize our connection to the cosmos in ways that are profound, but also so simple. A star whose light takes a journey moving through the vacuum of space, traveling as long as anybody could imagine or quantify, shining into its own future. Even this very simple fact of physics, of astronomy, is amazing to us. The light of our star, the sun, when we see it, it's 8 minutes old. That's a quick trip for the light from our sun to travel to our small third planet. But when we ponder the others in our night sky, the ones that we require darkness to be able to see, these pinprick lights are tens of thousands, even millions of years old. Their journey has taken longer than we can fathom. Their brilliance in our sky for the most distant, far outlasting their existence even. The light we see originating from a star that no longer exists. That simple fact has profound meaning. These distant stars' life of shining, their life of doing what they do in burning their gases was but a beginning. And the light that flared forth shined into their own future, ending who knows where and when, and who might see it. These distant stars can be for us a sign of hope. Our own existence, fraught with the burning challenges of life and death and struggle, that too is a beginning, though it often seems the opposite. That too is a beginning whose journey is something that shines beyond our own imagination, beyond our own dreaming, beyond our own expectation. We do not know where the burning of our struggles may lead. I love that Jan Richardson, in her poem, speaks of looking up at a star and then closing our eyes and seeing those spots behind our eyelids. And she calls it a map. She says, see how the map begins to blossom behind your lids, how it constellates, its lines stretching out from where you stand. This is not a map with an ending. This is the start. What a beautiful image to think that our journey begins with ourselves in the dark, eyes closed, wondering, what do these swirls mean? Which directions are they pointing? And the map outward from the darkness is like those retinal neurons firing in ways we can't quite describe or chart. We can't see it. We can't perceive how the road we walk will lead us finally, like it is when we have our eyes closed, leads us finally to ourselves. Our heart, our belly, our lungs, and what we find there. I don't know. A glimmer, a twist, a turn, a light, a strength. Because we know better, we know that grief is a cycle, not something to finish, conclude, get over, or find closure. Because we know better, we know that anxiety is managed, not gone forever. Because we know better, we know life's challenges come and go, and then new ones arrive. What makes Christmas so difficult for many of us is that according to our culture, we're meant to feel peace, love, joy, happiness, the American dream. Oh no, not that one. Images of loved ones sharing time with family that never has anything wrong with it whatsoever. We're to be caught up in the wonder of only happy memories and positive vibes. But that focus on merriment actually can make what we feel all the more acute and all the worse, to be honest. It makes loneliness we feel wrong and even lonelier. It makes grief we feel somehow like we're doing it wrong, and even more acute. It makes us feel like we are less than for having trauma in our lives that gets relived, reactivated at times like Christmas. The Christmas story, well, let me just say, we're here because we want to reject that story of our culture. We want to say that Christmas does not have to be that. We want to say, if this makes us sad, if this makes us angry, if this makes us grieve even stronger, if this makes us triggered into some memory or challenging time in our lives, that is the way we feel, and Christmas be damned. So the Christmas story has this star at the center, Atop every Christmas card, shining its light on the main characters of this season's story, the light of that star points the way. Maybe it doesn't point the way. That star didn't direct the plot of that story, of that Christmas story. It didn't write the ending. It pointed, and someone followed. It didn't indicate the ending, which, by the way, was quite brutal. A refugee child, a refugee family, forced out of their home to flee into a place where they had no connection, no family, no friends, to flee. This is a story for our time. So that star pointed to something, but it didn't indicate the end. It indicated a beginning. Symbolized no less in the Magi finding a child. In the Magi finding a child, is there anything symbolic, metaphorical, essence, and archetype that speaks to us of beginnings more than a child? The star points to a beginning. So perhaps the question for us this Christmas, or any Christmas, is, what could the quiet gift of this season be for us? If it's not the hoopla and the overly saccharine focus on gift-giving and joy and family, peace, if it's not that, but on the first steps of a journey whose destination is unknown, what if the ending is unwritten, but we have the inner wisdom to see a starting place in the darkness? Like when you stare at a candle and then close your eyes. What if it's a blur and a blossom, a turn and a spiral, as the poet says, ever so faintly behind our eyelids, that we will discern in our heart, in our guts, in our lungs? Where we end up from tonight and through this season is unknown to any of us. But where we start, the first steps we take toward our truest selves and toward our healing, toward whatever glimmer we see, toward what we have yet to learn and discover, that might be the hope we need in these difficult times. The gift might be, as the poet says, to step out and know what the wise who traveled this path before us knew, that the treasure in this map is buried not at journey's end, but at its beginning.
How silent
This next part of our gathering is a open and spacious time for us, a time to hear some beautiful music, and a time to ponder and reflect on something we were invited to do as we entered the space tonight. We each chose perhaps a star from the basket, and we were invited to ponder or to write on that star a person's name, something we're going through, a fear, an anxiety, a part of the world that is resting uneasily in our hearts. Anything that is challenging us this Christmas season. As we continue to ponder that, or add to it, or go grab another star because one isn't enough, we'll, whenever the time is right, be invited to bring your star. If you'd like to place it on the blue Christmas tree, you may do so. Recognizing, of course, that sometimes holding that star for the last 30 minutes and imbuing it with those challenges means that you have to take that star home, and that's okay too. But regardless of whether you place that on the tree, please bring your taper candle up and light your candle from any one of the candles on the center table, and hold that light with you through the music and through our prayers that will conclude our time together as we grow the light with each other and share it together. As I said, with no order, with no right time, come forward if you would like when the time is right for you. Join us as we share and bring light to our prayers for tonight and for the season. Although the nights are still growing longer, we welcome the light we create together. We've come to share pain, to grieve the losses in our lives and the wounds of our world, and to help one another live in the light of love and grace. For those for whom the darkness is deep, those who shelter themselves in its silence, those who have been so deeply hurt that their walls protect their tender hearts and keep possibility at a distance, for those among us without hope, we light a candle.
May we find our way past cynicism to connect with one another and together rekindle the passion that is hope, so that no one is left in the darkness alone. For those who are vulnerable, without adequate shelter and food or work, for angry youth and neglected children, for fearful or lonely elders, for refugees seeking safety and finding challenge and disappointment, for those most vulnerable among us, we light a candle.
Despite the value systems that dominate in the political and social realities, we affirm the dignity and meaning of every life. May we offer the kind word and support that makes a moment easier, so that no one is left in the darkness alone. And now for the victims of violence, whether personal or systemic, for those living with the trauma of war, conflict, torture, those whose lives have been altered by terror or tragedy, for those in the grip of addiction or abuse, imprisoned by the many kinds of prisons. For these, we light a candle.
In the midst of a troubled world, our hearts long for change. We want to see life as possibility, not loss, as gift, not burden, as beauty, not ashes. May we give each other hope and strength so that no one is left in the darkness alone. For those whose loneliness blankets this season and carves empty corridors deep within, for those who try to hide in the busyness of festivities, for those for whom the burdens of loss and grief are heavy, for those who are in varying places of challenge and distress, we light a candle.
In the shadows of loss, we touch the sacredness of life. May we find peace even amid our deepest sorrows, and give shelter to one another in the midst of heartache and heartbreak, that no one is left in the darkness alone. With the wisdom of our songs and stories and in the witness of our love's fullness, we pray as those born of light and yet ever seeking it. Amen. God can be made whole.
Oh, come, ignite my passion to see the truth of who I am, who I can be. Rejoice, rejoice, to fear I bid farewell, that light may come within my heart to dwell. Oh, come, lights beauty, come amongst and cheer our spirits by your radiant presence here. Oh, come, ignite our passion to see the beauty born in all humanity. Rejoice, rejoice, to darkness bid farewell, that light may come within our hearts to dwell. Oh, come, light's wisdom be our certain guide, as arrogance and greed we set aside. Oh, come, ignite our passion to see that we can live in peace and harmony. Rejoice, rejoice, to privilege bid farewell, that light may come within our hearts to dwell.
As we conclude our time together, know that you're invited to stay for some refreshments, some cookies, something hot and delicious to drink, to share with each other, to meet one another wherever we are. And know that as we send our light into this night, know that the challenge and pain of this season is gathered, is somehow in the twists and the turns of light's beginnings made beautiful, because we are beautiful. So we send our light as we send ourselves into this night, to care, to love, and to know that this is just the beginning of our journey. And may it be a peaceful one.